baseline audio recorded in a pro vocal booth to develop a baseline recording that we can compare for the recording box when we take it on the road.
I'm Josh. Dan has just entered, and this is Show Me Your Setup. We've been recording at our desk spaces. We've recorded on the road in a minivan. We've recorded with a recording box, and we've recorded with a vocal microphone shield. And today we're going to record a baseline recording. Dan, tell them about that. And you're in a different space.
I'm tempted to start off with bass. How low can you go?
Yeah.
But I'm not going to go there. So I'm in a booth today.
Your booth?
A vocal booth. My booth. My professional vocal booth, which is designed to reduce room tone, practically eliminating it, but not really, because that would be artificial as well. So I have some flat surfaces that reflect sound, like the monitor in front of me, and the door behind me. And anything white pretty much around me is a hard surface, but everything else is foam. There's some bass traps in the corners, and good old MXL 990 in front of me, in the funky shock mount, which I suppose I could pan down for. Funky shock. I can't believe I don't have the funky shock mount in the image. Why didn't we think of this before? People, it's not easy to produce.
You want to get that funky little shock in the shot?
There's enough of it. That works.
Yeah.
I don't have the ventilation on, so it's kind of cozy in here. I might take periodic breaks to ventilate. Whew. So yes, hi everybody. As Josh said, we're here to record some baseline audio. The baseline audio is going to be the same audio that we recorded in our last episode, the tongue twisters, which, by the way, we have made the official SMYS tongue twister vocal warm-up cheat sheet, and yes, SMYS is short for Show Me Your Setup. We've made that cheat sheet, we've made it available, you can get it on our website.
Yeah, it's at gomodpod.com/show-me-your-setup. Or just click podcasts in the header. You'll get there. You can also just directly ask us on any of our social channels.
If you're listening to us, you have a device, and that device can see our description.
Yes.
Probably. A neat thing about our cheat sheet, by the way, is it's not just tongue twisters. It also has some very helpful hints that anyone who wants to record can take advantage of.
Do you remember what one or two of them are?
I do.
Good.
So the very first one, actually, is maintain your hydration levels. Now, this can be tricky when you're recording a lot, if you're trying to have a very clear mouth without a lot of mouth noise, because as you drink liquid, it's going to make that noise again. But if you don't drink the liquid, you're going to dry up. It's not good. You don't want to dry up.
Yeah, when you're not hydrated, these weird clicks, you might think they're cute. They're not cute.
Now, fun fact, you can remove some of that stuff with some really neat software. But, okay, you should have the best signal to make the cleanest recording whenever you're recording in a booth. Or recording in general. Just have a good signal. And be comfortable. That's another one. Try and be comfortable. I don't think I'm used to standing up and staring up at a camera, which is why I'm sitting here going, oh, do I want to sit down?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think what we'll do today is we will record the tongue twisters while I'm standing, then we'll reposition, record them again while I'm sitting, and we'll compare those, but also we'll save those for future reference when we go out into the field using the recording box and the MXL 990 to see if the recording box can emulate this room tone in bigger spaces.
If you guys are interested in the mount that Dan's large diaphragm condenser is affixed to, go to Show Me Your Setup number 4. But in short, it's a prop from one of his daughter's plays.
Yes,
old-fashioned microphone
a musical
stand.
Old-timey mic stand, reconfigured, repurposed, reused as a shock mount.
Quirk for quirky's sake.
Quirk for quirky's sake? I know what's going on here. I keep messing with the wrong knob. At my desk, I have a Scarlett. What do I have? I have the Focusrite Scarlett. What's the one I have upstairs?
Solo?
Yes, the Scarlett Solo. Upstairs, I have the Scarlett Solo, and down here in the booth, I have the Focusrite 2i2. And whereas the big knob on the 2i2 does something, I don't know what it does, but it's certainly not the gain for the headphones, which are, oh, that's much better. They were so loud I couldn't even think. All this time I've been like just in my head, and I'm adjusting the knob while talking to you guys and looking down here, and it wasn't making any change because I was adjusting the wrong knob. So another thing to keep in mind when you're in a recording scenario is understand the equipment that you're using. Maybe brush up on it before you start recording so that you won't have any embarrassing episodes while you're recording. Unless those embarrassing episodes become the best part of the show.
Get comfortable first means considering your ears too, your ear comfort.
It does, and I just didn't think about it.
So wear comfortable headphones, preferably that wrap around your ears and not kind of sit on top of them and compress into your skull.
I had a pair of headphones that you might recall back in the studio that we used to make sure that we were hearing what was going on inside the booth as opposed to inside the room. And they were designed with drummers in mind, originally. They were designed to reduce outside sounds by up to 30 decibels. And they really clamped on your head like a tight fit. They worked for the purpose of recording somebody and making sure you could hear everything, but at the same time, you would develop fatigue over time just from having your head squeezed. And that's okay because when your head starts to hurt, the vocalist is probably tired of talking. So you all take a break every so often. You just say, you know what? Take 5, everybody.
Taking a break to get some air.
Whee! So, folks, you wouldn't know this, but Josh and I were all set to record this episode yesterday. And I came down in the booth, and the same microphone that we've been recording these shows with up in the office had horrible noise issues in my professional booth, which boggled my mind because we use the booth all the time. I don't know, one way or another, we figured things out. It turns out that you don't want to have your power cords too close to your USB cables because they'll talk to each other and create a ground loop hum that is very annoying. So I rerouted the cables. We'll talk about that another day. But listen. And what you don't hear is that ground loop hum. That's why we're recording today.
I want to talk about it now,
Nice
but I'll wait.
You can talk about it now.
I just wanted to tell them the sound we heard was kind of a windy sound.
Oh my God, that was awful. Thank goodness we got rid of that. Whew. So if you ever hear that kind of noise in your recording, consider the placement of the USB cable that's connecting your digital audio converter to your computer or any of your peripherals to anything. If they're crossing or running parallel to power cords, think about, can you space them out? Maybe it'll help.
Dan, do you anticipate that after we record today in the booth and get our baseline, that we're going to offer comparison audio in this episode?
We could compare to the ones that we recorded in the office, for sure, because they should sound noticeably different, I would think. Yep. And then we get to the meat of things, and we take the recording box on the road to locations of our audience's suggestion.
Yeah.
So, hey, everybody. I'm Dan. This is Josh. We're with Show Me Your Setup, and we're wondering where would you like us to take the recording box to make a test recording?
And real quick, it'll just take 2 secs. I just want to give you our email address. It's info@gomodpod.com. That might be your fastest way to fire off some communication to us. Twitter is @gomodpod. Facebook is facebook.com/gomodpod. You can certainly message us through there. You can reply to a comment from a previous podcast episode. This is also being recorded in video form for YouTube, youtube.com/@gomodpod.
Yes, perfect. Thank you for all of those. And again, if you missed any of them or Josh said them too fast, look in the description because we've got links. While you were giving them the links to our feeds, as it were, I was noticing I have a second microphone in here, and we could do one other recording while we're here today. After we've done the baseline in this mic, we could record the same audio with the other
I'd love
mic
to hear that.
and see if they sound any different. Because again, you can never have too many microphones, and so far on this show we've shown you 2 or maybe 3 of mine, but we haven't shown you that one. We can record on that microphone the same baseline audio so people can hear the difference between microphones in this particular setup with this equipment.
I'd like that, Dan.
Well, then you are going to get your wish. But first, we have some tongue twisters to record.
The great thing is you can warm up by doing your tongue twisters, and then you can record your tongue twisters.
A skunk sat on a stump and thunk the stump stunk. But the stump thunk, the skunk stunk. If 2 witches watched 2 watches, which witch would watch which watch?
Engage.
The Tongue Twisters, baseline recording, done in a booth. How much dew could a dewdrop drop if a dewdrop did drop dew? Betty bought some bitter butter, and it made her batter bitter, so Betty bought some better butter to make her bitter batter better. A skunk sat on a stump and thunk the stump stunk, but the stump thunk the skunk stunk. Who was right, nobody knows. If two witches watch two watches, which witch would watch which watch? Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't very fuzzy, was he? And that's baseline audio recorded in a pro vocal booth to develop a baseline recording that we can compare for the recording box when we take it on the road.
You said something earlier, Dan, that complete lack of room tone is...
You don't want to have a complete lack of tone in your room. You don't want all the sounds to be completely absorbed like they would be in an anechoic chamber, because that sounds incredibly unnatural.
Okay.
So in this confined space, it's actually different when I stand to record in here than when I sit, which is why we're going to do another round of me sitting, because the acoustic treatment is kind of optimized for a person who's right about here.
Okay.
I'm not going to say who that person is right now, but usually the vocalist is down here if they're standing or sitting, not up here.
Mm-hmm.
It gets a little boxy sounding when I'm standing up.
Okay.
So we're going to do a comparison, and I'm going to disappear. I might bring the monitor down. I don't know. First, the microphone. Goodbye. Then the Dan. Adios. And then maybe a little more microphone. Hey, good thing it's on a shock mount. Ridiculous thing. All right. And again, folks, one nice thing to have in your setup is a level of adjustability. If you put everything on a boom or a stand, then you can move it around, remain comfortable, and do what you're doing. For the folks listening only, what I just did was I went from a standing position to a sitting position. I lowered the microphone down. I'm still adjusting it slightly, so don't mind the rattles and thumps. I also then reached out and I moved my computer monitor down, and the camera on top of the monitor comes down when I lower the monitor. And so I have just moved from a standing position to a seated position seamlessly while recording everything. And now we can redo the baseline recording. Because, as I was saying, the acoustics in this room were kind of designed to be optimal from down here, not from a standing position, because maybe it's for a different person, not this guy.
It sounds better.
Maybe. Yeah, I have to remember that. Don't stand when you're recording, Dan. People can tell. So, the Tongue Twisters, seated position, from a professional booth. How much dew could a dewdrop drop if a dewdrop did drop dew? Betty bought some bitter butter, and it made her batter bitter, so Betty bought some better butter to make her bitter batter better. A skunk sat on a stump and thunk the stump And that's why we're recording. We can edit, but we won't. A skunk sat on a stump and thunk the stump stunk. But the stump thunk the skunk stunk. Maybe I'll do that one again at the end. That's another trick to learn, people. If you're recording scripts and you just get stuck on one line, move on. Go back later. It's okay. It's a recording. You can edit. That's why we record, so we can edit. We can make all kinds of outrageous mistakes and then edit. And it seems like we're perfect because we are perfect. We never make mistakes, thanks to editing. If two... You know, when you move everything around and you can't see your script anymore, that's when you got to move it. If two witches watched two watches, which witch would watch which watch? Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't very fuzzy, was he? And back to that difficult one in the middle. A skunk sat on a stump and thunk the stump stunk, but the stump thunk the skunk stunk. And those are Tongue Twisters, recorded from a seated position in a booth on the MXL 990 in a funky shock mount. That when you thump it, it gives a springy kind of sound. Josh, what are other tips for people when they're in a vocal booth? Or any recording situation when they want to monitor themselves very carefully?
A slightly louder than normal headphone volume?
Okay, sure.
Tell me what you're thinking.
I was thinking headphones in general because we didn't actually specifically talk about headphones yet. And in our handy-dandy cheat sheet, one of the mentions is use headphones because using headphones while you record allows you to hear others as well as yourself. Because if I wasn't wearing these, I certainly couldn't hear you because you are really far away, but yet we're talking and we can hear each other. And when we wear headphones instead of using speakers, we don't have the bleed of the speakers into the microphone. That could either cause feedback or just distracting extra sounds. Nobody wants that. All right, so yes, also turning up the gain slightly helps you to hear yourself and other things.
I think you asked if you really, really wanted to pay close attention and monitor yourself. And I guess if that was the case, as opposed to video conferencing with my boss or the team or you in a work environment, I'm not going to have the headphones very loud. But if I'm audio editing or critically listening to myself because I want to get a really good recording, I'm going to adjust the headphones a little bit so I can hear things with better clarity. And I don't want to feel left out with the mic boom that you were talking about. So I'll say my mic is also on a boom, and I use it for video conferencing, podcasting. When I don't, I can just kind of flick it out of the way, and my desk is clear of large objects.
Mic booms sure are handy things, and you've reminded me we have one more baseline recording to try in this booth today. Because as I mentioned, there's another microphone, and it's on a boom. It's on the same boom as your microphone, I believe, the Heil PL2T. Mine's mounted on the wall as opposed to the desk. However, it still swings into position with the greatest of ease. Right now, I'm going to turn down the gain on this microphone, move it carefully off to the side, swing in the other microphone, dial it up, and we'll compare how this one sounds to that one.
Nicely done. You notice Dan's being very considerate of the audience and of his co-host. We're not hearing any jarring sounds in our ears that could cause pain or hearing loss.
Nobody's seen this microphone. Nobody's heard about this microphone. This microphone is made by Advanced Audio. It's a CM87. It's very sonically similar to a Neumann U87, I believe. I'm pretty sure if I have memory. It's been a while. We've had this microphone over 13 years now, I think. Yeah. I was reading a Tape Op magazine review of the microphone. I got really excited about it. I said, this sounds like the kind of microphone that we need in our professional vocal booth. I talked about it with my wife, and she said, yes, that is the microphone I need in my booth. I was like, okay, fair enough. This microphone that I pulled in here, the Advanced Audio CM87, I pulled in because, well, we want to hear the same baseline tongue twisters on a different microphone. Not that we're ever going to take this microphone out of the booth and into the field, because that's not going to happen. When you have a really nice microphone, you keep it in a nice, safe place. If you do need to travel, you pull out the flight case.
Yeah.
Every good microphone comes with a nice hard flight case. Well, maybe not every good microphone. This one did.
Is this microphone a dynamic?
No, this is a condenser microphone. This requires 48-volt phantom power. It has a cardioid pickup pattern, so its sweet spot is right in front. It rejects some of the sound from behind the microphone. So, here we go, people. The tongue twisters on a different microphone. La! How much dew could a dewdrop drop if a dewdrop did drop dew? Betty bought some bitter butter, and it made her batter bitter. So Betty bought some better butter to make her bitter batter better. A skunk sat on a stump and thunk the stump stunk, but the stump thunk the skunk stunk. If two witches watched two watches, which witch would watch which watch? Fuzzy Wuzzy. I just hit the pop filter, the pop filter, the stand, because sometimes when I'm talking, I gesticulate. I move my hands around a lot, and I bump things, like I just hit the keyboard. Now I've moved it out of the way. Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. Fuzzy Wuzzy had no hair. Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't very fuzzy, was he? I guess one other cool advantage of this microphone over the MXL in this particular situation is those who are watching can see there's a giant foam pop filter on the microphone itself, and I have an additional pop screen between myself and the mic. So I think I could do Betty Bought really close, really loud, and painfully so, but it would never pop on any of the P's, which is nice. Again, pop filters. Those are good things to have. In fact, that might be also written. It is! On our cheat sheet. Folks, you want this cheat sheet. Go to the website. Get it. Here's a link.
For our audio listeners, gomodpod.com. Click on podcast. Do all the voice talents that use this booth use the double pop filter feature?
No. The second pop filter only gets pulled in when it's needed.
Okay.
But since I was going to be slamming on the tongue twisters,
Ah.
I suppose I could move out of the way and see. Betty bought some bitter butter and it made her batter bitter. So Betty bought some better butter to make her bitter batter better. I was definitely a lot closer than I was earlier
I'd
with
say you're
that filter, and I did not hear any
a
popping.
little bit. Oh, it's
Betty
just for
bought some
popping.
bitter butter. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, it was just to get close and plosive,
got it.
but it did. This filter does a pretty good
Yep.
job. Pretty, but you can. There it is. Yeah. I wasn't quite on axis. That's another thing. When you're trying to figure out the sweet spot of your own microphone, people, what you can do is you can move around talking, but also make. And when the plosives get really bad, you found the sweet spot. Avoid it at all costs. Remember, if you have a side address microphone, don't talk into the top of it. That's not a good idea. You don't sound as good as if you talk into the right part of the microphone. Now, how can people tell what side of the microphone to talk into? Put on headphones, talk all around the microphone till you sound good.
Mm-hmm. Break out your
And if
manual.
you can't hear yourself in the headphones, maybe you should adjust that too.
I wanted to just take a break and ask the audience for something. If folks in our audience are enjoying what we're doing, they're learning about things they'd like to try with their gear, they're thinking about choosing new gear. If you like Dan's entertaining persona, the thing I'd just ask is that you tell a friend about our podcast. It's called Show Me Your Setup. You can find it at gomodpod.com. Click on podcasts. I just ask that you tell a friend about the show. And secondly, if you want to kind of go the extra mile, I would ask that you actually share this episode or share the entire podcast in your social media. Like maybe you just put it out in your Facebook feed or your Twitter feed. And we'd appreciate that. Thank you. I love the moody. Dan, are you recording in the Man
Playing
Ray
around with the
basement?
various lights.
We ask that you subscribe to our show, whether it's the audio feed or the video feed. And an easy way to do it is just to Google Show Me Your Setup podcast. The Apple link's going to come up right away, Spotify. You can also subscribe on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/@GoModPod. That way, you're subscribed. You don't have to think about it anymore. As soon as you go to your feed with the stuff that you like to listen to or watch, we're going to be there when we have a new episode. It makes sense to subscribe if you like what we're doing.
One fun feature of the booth that we're not doing a tour of yet is that I put in RGB LED lighting around the top.
Yeah,
I was playing with it while Josh was giving you the socials.
I like it. Shall we mention that we've booked a guest for an upcoming episode? A professional voice talent who's going to show us her recording setup.
Yes, of course.
Good. I'm looking forward to that. We can't wait to talk to her and share her setup with you. We would also love if you have any interest in showing us your setup, whether it's photo, video, or just actually coming on and recording with us and kind of giving us a little tour. It can be as long or as short, as detailed as you like. And we'll take care of you. We'll make you feel comfortable.
If you don't want your face on our show, all you need to do is send us a picture of your setup and you can meet with us, keep your camera off, and talk about your setup with us.
Yeah, the easiest way
If you want your face on our show, we can take care of that too.
The easiest way to get in touch is emailing info@gomodpod.com.
Or comment on our YouTube videos. That happened recently, with our last episode, in fact. We got 3 comments so far. We're pretty stoked about that.
We're still humble. Catch us now, guys.
Sign up early, and you too can be on Show Me Your Setup.
Before we spend
This
a
has
half
been
hour bantering about nothing before each episode.
We'll never force everyone to listen to that full half hour, though. We'll give you a highlight of the nothing banter. And for our Patreon page.
I know, I was thinking of that. Like,
I'm a bit of a Luddite when it comes to television technology around my house. Connected devices.
you might get into
Play
Plex
with the remote.
eventually.
I might.
You have to kind of name your Plex instance, and I called ours Time to Have Plex.
Perfect. I can't wait a year or two before your son, tunes into the name of that.
Yeah.
Or maybe he already has, and he's like, Dad?
Oh, yeah, he set it up at my mom's house, and he's like, which one do I connect to? I'm like, oh, it's called time to have Plex. He's like, okay.
Yeah. At
But
some point, that's going to be...
Do you know that reggae song, though? It's called Flex. Flex. Time to have sex. By Cobra.
And on that note, folks, I'm Dan, and this is Josh, and this has been Show Me Your Setup, baseline recording session in a pro audio booth. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.